might be aggressive, but I would hope we'd release a public testnet for the rebase within the next month.
The intent of this show, it's something like a stand-up meeting. It's kind of intended to be very tactical. I'll be sort of the vocal for the community and sort of like an honorary Scrum Master, I guess. So,
okay.
Yeah, do me a solid and introduce yourself, because I don't know if the community's ever seen you interviewed, and pardon my ignorance, I haven't seen an interview with you yet.
Jacob Brutman. I'm currently sort of running operations of the Bitcoin private project. Got involved in crypto actually around September of last year. So this is approximately my 1-year anniversary being involved in cryptocurrency. By background, I'm actually a chemist. So sometimes I sit down and wonder how I ended up here. And part of that was just me mining on my gaming computer, and had free electricity in my apartment at the time. And then I ended up mining ZClassic, was in the ZClassic Telegram when Rhett sort of announced, oh, we should do this. And then I like to joke around and say I'm the first volunteer.
Let's do the actual stand-up here. As a community-driven project, I know that changes happen a lot. Mm-hmm. So in the last couple of months, what big things have happened at Bitcoin Private?
The community really led an effort to get listed on top BTC, which was pretty fantastic. So kudos to the community for handling that and getting us on what I believe, at least at the time the voting was a top 20 exchange. I'm not sure where they're at currently. In terms of development, I'd say we did release BTCP Pay in an open beta platform. So that has come out and people can sign up, and they're sort of being pushed into to using that. And that was led by Dan Farina, and actually another core developer who's been around for a while. He sort of does a lot of the full stack stuff, website, etc. There's definitely been a lot of shakeups as we've had issues with the market and with, in terms, because most of our funding is in Bitcoin and the market has not been kind, we've had to make some adjustments in terms of where we can make expenditures. And so pretty much 100% of expenditures now are devoted to development. We're really trying to just push the rebase, not listen to too much noise, and just get that done. Now, we originally planned to release that code, I think, or have a finished product of that code this quarter. I'm not sure whether that's going to happen or not. Rebasing an entire blockchain like that and the code like that can bring in a ton of vulnerabilities. And so right now we have a private test net up that we've been working on. We're just testing transactions out, and we're trying to basically, break it as much as possible in order to ensure that when we release this and we do the hard fork, we're not going to introduce vulnerabilities that are going to ruin Bitcoin private. And that's sort of where we're at right now, finishing that code up, testing that code, reviewing that code, eventually launching a public test net. I don't have an exact date for it now, but I'd rather it be delayed from what our initial time set was than, or due date was, than introduce awful vulnerabilities that are going to ruin that will ruin Bitcoin private.
Okay, sounds good. I know when I spoke with John Shim last time that the rebase was one of the largest milestones on the roadmap for future development. So it sounds like the rebase still is. It's the big thing. It's the main focus.
It is. I mean, we have opted to hard fork, which will make our lives easier. We could probably soft fork it in, but we also know that there might be some other incompatibilities that a hard fork would then would make it a lot easier. So it's going to take time to also coordinate that effort. Again, it's our number one priority right now. It's going to improve node sync times by like a factor of 4 because of all the improvements that are in Bitcoin versus what are in Zcash. Literally, it's enormous the amount of improvements we're going to get. We're going to get HD wallets as well, and there's a variety of other things that will be very crucial and will make Bitcoin private a substantially faster and more capable blockchain.
Very cool. Yeah, very, very cool. Let me ask you, as far as proof of work, because I think that was the last time that I did a round of interviews for Equihash-based coins. In terms of proof of work, that was the topic du jour, right? Mm-hmm. So the Z9 Mini had been announced, and then various different teams had talked about potentially forking away from Equihash, maybe to Equihash 1445 or to something else. Without taking the focus away from BTCP, there are some other coin projects that have decided, okay, we're going to go with Equihash 1445, others that have stuck with Equihash, and then others still that have just focused all of their efforts, redoubled all of their efforts to go with something that is uniquely GPU oriented in terms of proof of work. There are a couple that are out there, right? There are a couple different proof of work algos that are out there that are intended to be for GPUs only. Where has Bitcoin private been on that spectrum over the last couple of months?
Yeah, so first I'll start with saying I have a lot of thoughts on this, and the team has a lot of thoughts on it, which is one of the reasons why it's been hard for us to come to a concrete decision, although I'm pretty sure that we've reached one. I will add that, for instance, Bitcoin Gold's code that they used for the 1445 implementation of Equihash was actually written by us. So that was originally in one of our branches. We wrote that. We were the first ones to do it. And Bitcoin Gold, rightfully so, took an open source piece of code and they credited it back to us. So there's nothing wrong with that. I applaud them for making sure that they gave credit back to us for that.
Sure. But yes, if anything, it's just it's a testament of how good your work was. The fact that they wanted to adopt it so fast.
Yes, and what we've been exploring is 1927 a lot as well, because it's a little bit more resistant to ASICs, requires more memory. But what, the biggest issue that I have right now is that everything we do, especially as it terms with comes to Equihash is just going to be a patch, right? I mean, it's only a short-term solution. It's not a long-term solution. And I am personally convinced that there is no real long-term solution. It's just a series of hard fork after hard fork after hard fork. And so that was sort of one of the long arguments that we had was, are we going to just commit to hard forking over and over and over again? Is that going to actually help network stability or not? And so what we know right now is that there's a problem because Bitmain controls pretty much everything, right? And so that's not very decentralized. GPUs are better because they're a little bit more broadly available and going to be a little bit more decentralized than going with ASICs. But I think in the long-term haul, what we're going to see across the board is everything eventually, there's going to be no choice. It's either keep changing constantly, which for a developer is a nuisance when you have other things that you actually want to do that are more important, or just sit down and say, okay, we're going to take this, we're just going to let them do it. And then hopefully some competitors will come in and they'll also want to make competing ASICs on the same algorithm. I don't think we're there yet. Bitmain their technology is far and above everyone else's as far as I can see. But hopefully one day we'll reach that point where we won't have to continue hard forking. But I really don't think we're ever going to sort of hit a completely GPU only algorithm, because there's always a way for someone, whether it's an ASIC or an FPGA or some other specially designed processing unit, that's going to be perfect for whatever that algorithm is, no matter what you do. It may even be a GPU that's specially designed only for that algorithm and does nothing else well except work on that algorithm, right? So
by definition, wouldn't that kind of just be a PCI Express based ASIC?
You basically, are we going to be able to maintain a general purpose algorithm? I think that's going to eventually prove impossible. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't design the hardware, I don't design the algorithms, and someone may come out with one that turns out will never be cracked ever for whatever reason. But based on what I know about hardware right now, I see that as a pretty slim chance.
I agree. And spoken to some hardware designers and some algorithm designers who I think they agree also. It's not an intractable problem for the short term, but for the long term, probably not worth dumping hundreds of millions of dollars of R&D into, because it's just like you said, it's just a series of ongoing patches, band-aids, if you will.
Mm-hmm. The most successful projects are the ones that find an algorithm that they claim alone and sort of are the top project on. Then they get the ASIC solely on that blockchain and mining, and then their network stability is generally higher. And I think that's something that we hope to achieve in the future, getting away from Equihash and maybe moving to something else entirely. I don't know. Those decisions are a little bit further away, and we still have to talk them through. Awesome.
Okay. Well, hey, I appreciate you kind of pivoting into a conversation about proof of work right now. Again, as a proof of work coin and a proof of work network, I think there's so many coins that are in the position that Bitcoin Private is in that, like, you've got other things that you want to get to on the roadmap. You've got other milestones you want to hit, but whatever, there's a 1,200 pound black bear behind us in the form of Bitmain. So
there's no issue. We did the code already. We've tested it. The big thing here is that we decided, instead of hard forking right away and then having to hard fork again, however many months later with the rebase, it was just not worth it to push it out right away. And so we just delayed it to coincide with the rebase hard fork. And it'll just make our lives easier. It'll make all of the exchanges, all of the mining pools, everyone, all their lives will be a lot easier if they don't have to worry about hard forking twice in the same year.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, so thank you so much for talking a little about that and talking a little about where the team's efforts have been over the last couple of months. Moving into a conversation about what's coming up for Bitcoin Private. What are some of the milestones that are more immediate? The rebase, of course, is a big thing. And like you said, better to be better late and correct than fast and shoddy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
that is honestly where like 100% of our focus is right now. I think it means everything. We have a new website that's supposed to come out. We have there's a little bit of going back and forth right now where it's kind of finished, but there are some bugs, and we have some perfectionists on the team that want to make sure that it's perfect before it comes out. So it might take a little bit longer. But in general, the rebase is really it. I mean, we had some other things that will probably get delayed that we had on the roadmap. that weren't that hard. And there are some things that will coincide with the rebase. For instance, by doing this rebase, we should be able to incorporate the Bitcoin QT wallet, which I think is a lot better than what our current wallet is with the Swing wallet, which is, uses Java. It's not all that great in comparison with QT. So that will be, I think, a fantastic milestone that we'll reach. But I'm honestly not even paying attention to what's past the rebase right now. It's just the rebase.
Got it. Okay. So, and it sounds like then in terms of directing the development efforts of the team, that's where your head is at, trying to have everyone keep the blinders on until that rebase is done.
We're also adding in development bounties on it as well. They're small to start. We're probably going to raise them each a little bit, but I encourage anyone who sees this, we always need more hands on deck, people taking a look, looking at what kind of, looking at the code, checking for vulnerabilities in it. And so we've put bounties down on issues that need to be resolved that we don't have the bandwidth right now to get to. And we also recently put down a $5,000 bounty on ensuring that the wallet is working properly. So effectively making sure, going in, I think some more work still needs to be done on the RPC calls for the shielded addresses, and basically making sure those all work, doing all the code to make sure that they all work. And that has, a $5,000 bounty on it, which I think is pretty lucrative.
No, absolutely. That's great. And I appreciate you calling that out in the community. As you know, the Mine Your Biz community and now the R cryptocurrency community, it's home to several developers, a lot of more technically inclined miners, mid-scale miners, large-scale miners. And so very much focused on solving some of the kinds of problems that you need solved. So brilliant. Thank you. As far as milestones and work product from sprints that the community might be able to see coming out of the Bitcoin private development team in the coming weeks, what should we expect to see? What's on your plate right now that we can maybe see some work product from? So
you're referring specifically to, say, a release of something in the next few weeks?
Yes, a release of something.
I would say within the next month. This might be aggressive, but I would hope we'd release a public testnet for the rebase within the next month or so.
Okay.
To be honest, we could probably make the current testnet public, but it's not fully functional at the moment, and so I don't really see the purpose of doing that. And people can also go and do reg test, which a lot of people don't know about. It's really funny, actually. Testnet has basically become like a marketing gimmick almost, because you can just go and do reg test and do everything that you need to do on your own computer using reg test without setting up a testnet and mining and setting up the blockchain, which is a little bit more difficult than just doing a reg test and just running from there. So people can go ahead and do that. If they can download it, they can compile it on Linux, make sure to put it on reg test mode so that you're not actually in production mode, which could potentially be bad. Don't do that. And then go ahead and test it out and see what kind of errors that you get and report them back. But yeah, public testnet I think is certainly doable in the next month. Not necessarily fully functional, but definitely doable.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. And because there's no real point in us putting out, say, a wallet for that testnet, you probably won't see that. It'll be mostly, go ahead and compile the daemon and client, run them and do testing and try to break it.
That's great. Good to know that that's what we can expect, hopefully expect in about the next month from the Bitcoin private development, the core developer team. The final question, the big ask, as a community, how can we help remove roadblocks between what you're working on today and releasing that public testnet for the rebase?
Reviewing the code is a big one. That one's probably the hardest because someone, you can't really put down a bounty on reviewing code, right? Because someone can just go ahead and say, I reviewed it, it's done, looks great. Probably didn't review it, right? So we need people to actually go in and look at it and do extensive reviews on it and want to be willing to do it without us paying them. Because, maybe we will if they find a bug. The last bug that was found was a SegWit bug, and I think we paid them a few $1,000s for finding it. So,
all right.
Exactly. So that's always been available. We've always done bug bounties. So if anyone finds, of course, the majority of the people who come forward aren't actually bugs or something that, it mattered at all or were inherent either to the blockchain or in one case with the BTCP pay was a bug in the code we were using from the original provider. So then we went to them and gave it to them. and they fixed it on their end. But yeah, they've always been open. I think only one has been done. I am sure there are other bugs. Go in the rebase, find them, help us fix them, and we will pay you to help us find them and fix them.
Outside of looking for bugs, is there anything else that the community can help do to remove roadblocks between what the Bitcoin private team is working on and that next release?
I think that the community has been doing a really fantastic job reaching out to, say, exchanges or trying to do their own marketing and really, just do their best to contribute as much as possible. I think that the community just needs to sort of hold fast. To be realistic, we're in a bear market. I personally don't really think about how that affects us, but I know that it affects the entire cryptocurrency community as a whole. There's not a lot of new blood coming in. So, just remaining steadfast as a community. If you have to keep your heads down for a little bit and weather the storm, then having to do that basically what my motto right now is, we're in the middle of a hurricane in the crypto market right now. All I want to do is come out on the other side, still standing, still developing, and still showing the world that we're a team and that we plan to continue to develop the Bitcoin private blockchain.
Very, very cool. All right. I think those are the only three questions that really matter. Do you have anything else that you want to say to the community, or anything else that you'd ask of the community outside of anything that helps remove roadblocks? Any kind of favors that you would just ask of the community?
I just say thank you, I think, for standing by us, for working with us. There's been just like every other project, I think there's been a lot of drama. There's been a lot of issues. There's been a lot of people very unhappy across the board because, let's be realistic, I think any altcoin project, you're probably down somewhere around 90% right now since January, and that sucks. So thanks for weathering the storm and sticking with us, and not caring about the price, but caring about adoption, which in my mind is the most important thing here. We're not trying to, necessarily make people rich. I'm trying to create a blockchain that's usable on a massive scale that people actually want to use and go to the store and buy something with it, or, go online and buy something with it. So that's what we want to create. And any way that the community feels they can help with that, please do. And thank you again to everyone who's stuck by us through rough times and good times.
Okay, very cool. What's the best outlet for members of the community to communicate with the BTCP core leadership and development team?
So I think Discord is always the best. Telegram is there, but it's hard for us to sort of keep track of it. There's one channel, there's a million people talking. The Discord always works better because there's a lot more channels we can pay attention, especially from a development standpoint. If you want to get involved, there's a development channel. Go in there, talk to us. It's the best way to interact with us. We're a lot more likely to respond, especially because, Telegram doesn't have the same restrictions as Discord does in terms of getting users in. So you have to be fully verified in Discord. So we're more likely to trust the users in Discord as well. So we're much more engaged on that platform.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Appreciate you spending some time talking about the Bitcoin private project and giving us sort of a snapshot here in early September 2018.
Yeah, anytime, Seth. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it. And hopefully I can come on again sometime soon.
I think we'll circle back to talk about the rebase. I get the sense that we will very soon.
Okay, sounds great.
Great talking to you.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.